Yes.
Well, this is a fascinating project, and your presentation of it is very interesting and compelling and subtle. I would just wanted to fix on one aspect of it and ask you to elaborate more, because it's a very fraught one, which is that having to do with the sense of disturbance you've had this week because of these responses to your work. So, and of course, the pain of a lot of our work in our time is that it gets no response. You know, I mean, it's just a sound without an echo or something. And you have this problem of kind of too much response and excessive response. And I was fascinated the way you conceived all these different kinds of responses, supportive and antagonistic and censoring and applause as part of the project. That is, imagining it moving the boundaries of the project out to encompass all of them. And so this goes beyond performance, of course, traditional performance, but even performance art of the 60s and the happening. I mean, because the bold kind of ambition is to admit even the most angry and antagonistic responses into your art space, right? But then you mentioned toward the end, you didn't know whether to go on. I mean, that is, you've encountered so much antagonism that to actually implement the tool and start trying to distribute it to increase the ease or the survival rate of aspiring immigrants would increase the level of response, presumably. And I mean, so how do you think about that? In other words, in a way, this is the raw political edge of what you're doing.
Well, I mean, it's a conversation we're having. Brett and I have a long history of encountering this antagonism, right, from the Department of Defense and Congress and others over electronic civil disobedience. And our choice at that time was to go forward, to distribute the code, to continue to do gestures, to help others do it. And it basically disallowed the agencies of power to arrest us, to put down the project, because we insisted that it was actually about something else. And so, for instance, we were invited to go to the NSA, right, because they wanted to go, why can't we arrest you, data mine you? And so what did we do? We said, well, this is Mayan technology. You can't arrest Mayan technology, right? And so they go, what the hell are you guys talking about? Why are you showing us Alphaville by Godard, right? Why do you have DJs over here? Well, you know, this is all part of this performative matrix at its core. It's sustainable pulsing is Mayan technology. And so that's why you can't do anything against electronic civil disobedience as theory or as practice. And of course they would always say, you know, what are you talking about? What are you doing? You know? And so I would go, beep, 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 todos a consultar el 21, beep, 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 todos a consultar el 21, beep, 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 bump. I, being the big nose, was in the middle of a Daholabal village when Pedrito, a 2.5-year-old, born during the second intergalactic hit the bottom on my boot. I said, Oye, Pedrito, ¿qué estás haciendo allí? What are you doing down there? He said, I'm picking up the men and women who are going to the consultation of the 21st. Ah, muy bien, Pedrito, but what the hell do you have in your hand there? It's my truck. Ah, Pedrito, be wise, be intelligent. That's not a truck, it's a rock. Well, it's not even a rock, it's a pebble. And he looked up at me and said, you know, that is what is wrong with you Zapatistas. You have no imagination. Beep, 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 todos a consulta el 21, beep, beep, todos a consulta el 21. I, being the big nose, turned to Lamar, the deepest and wisest of the Zapatistas. And I said, yes, that is a problem with us. We have no imagination. Next to me was Don Durito, the most famous invisible bug in all de la Condon. And he looked up at me, how many times have I told you, if only you read, yes, Don Durito, if only we were as intelligent as you, if only we had as many degrees as you, I'm sure we would have an imagination. Well, we continued into the Toalabal village where women and men were deciding which woman and man would go to the consultation of the 21st, when suddenly, above us, a commander-type plane, a blue and yellow, roared over the sky. On the other side, a Mexican helicopter from the army hovered. The roar and din was deafening, but the community of women and men continued speaking loudly about the... Pedrito looked up and said, Ya basta, enough is enough. Zoom! He went into his home. Zoom! He came back out faster than I have ever seen any child move, and in his hand was a stick. And he said, now watch this. He lifted the stick above his head and went, "Karoo, karoo, karoo!" Suddenly, the commander-type plane, blue and yellow, made a half circle and headed away toward its base. The Mexican Army helicopter slid away to the edge of the valley. Once more, the community, in lower voice, continued a discussion of which woman and man would go to the consultation of the 21st. Well, Pedrito, satisfied with what he had done, threw the stick down, picked up his his truck, and beep, 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 beep. Well, I being the big nose, I walked up. I picked up the stick. I gave it a scientific viewing, its weight, its length, smell, taste. I turned to Lamar, the deepest and wisest of the Zapatistas, and said, "It's a stick." Lamar turned to me and said, "Yes, it's a stick." Well, I being the big nose, I stuck the stick in my pocket. We continued marching forth, and we encountered Comandante Tacho coming into the village, and he said, "Hey, big nose, what the hell do you have in your pocket there?" I took out the stick, and Lamar turned to Comandante Tacho and said, "It's Mayan technology." Above me was the Mexican Army helicopter. I tried to remember what Pedrito had done. I lifted the stick above my head and went, "Karum, karum, karum, karum." Suddenly, the helicopter became a giant tin vulture. It fell straight to the ground. The sun came out. The clouds parted. Everything became like golden marzipan. Dun, dun. Well, they didn't like this. As an answer as to why they could not stop electronic civil disobedience. So I think we're at the point right now where we have to either navigate a new space of definition where deployment becomes that gesture, or it becomes an empirical condition of the first level, where it is a tool that will do such a thing, and we will then act out in civil disobedience based on a higher law, or else just deploy it as a kind of trans-infinity of possibilities that never fully occur in an empirical way, but perhaps in the second level of empirical, of the OED, right? One is a test repeated over and over. The second definition is a trick, right? Which is repeated over and over. So maybe somewhere in that liminal space, right? And, in the class I'm teaching right now on trans-infinities, one of the questions is, what can happen in that kind of empty set in the middle of trans and infinities as a potential to think about it, but I think it's unresolved.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I can fully follow that. It was a wonderful re-performance.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I think...
They're not paying us nothing for nothing.
What?
I'm tired of this.